Hola, cuarto grado y buenos días. Hi, good morning, fourth graders. Today we're going to use a PowerPoint to review telling time in español in addition to your rocalingua, ¿qué hora es? And the video lesson I recorded on lunes, which is posted on my portal page for you. There is a link to that YouTube video. I wanted to add those resources for you in addition to the Rocalingua, so you have more variety in your practice of our last unit, which is about telling time in Espanol. So most of what you're going to see is un resumen. I will also pause for you to have a more interactive practice, hopefully, where you are thinking of the respuesta correcta. The verb ser is used to express the time of day. And again, that is one of our two verbs we spent a lot of the school year studying. You might remember that it means to be, and it is used for more permanent things. That acronym doctor that we learn would speak to that, like we use this verb instead of the verb estar, which we also know means to be in Espanol. We use ser for things like descriptions, occupation, or what your job is, characteristics like physical characteristics you might have. You would use it for telling time, which is the T in that acronym doctor. You would use it for origin or saying where someone is from, and relationships like mi mamá es bonita or ella es mi mamá. So there's only two forms of the verb ser out of our 6 forms that you would use with telling time. And it says that right here. Use es when referring to 1 o'clock and use son when referring to all other hours. And that is because after la una, dos, tres, cuatro, doce, they are all plural numbers. So you have to have your verb match and be the plural form. The feminine article la and las is used before the hour because it refers to la hora, and la hora is the word for hour in Espanol. So that is why it will always be either la if you're talking about 1 o'clock, or las. It would never be the masculine definite article el or los because you're talking about la hora, which is femenina. Vamos a practicar ahora. Now we're going to practice. ¿Cómo se dice? It's 3 o'clock. Muy bien, fantástico. Son las 3. It's 4 o'clock. ¿Cómo se dice en español? Muy bien, son las 4. It's 6 o'clock. Muy bien, fantástico. Son las 6. So hopefully you're seeing the pattern here. Son is your first part, your form of ser, which most of the time, with the exception of la una, 1 o'clock, that will be your first word. Then your second word, if it is any other time in the clock, but 1 o'clock, will be las, and then your número 6. Son las 6. ¿Cómo se dice? It's 8 o'clock. Thinking of that pattern then. Muy bien, fantástico. Son las 8. Now we add minutos because obviously telling time is not always on the dot or en punto. A lot of times time involves minutos. So minutes can be added to the hour using the word y, which in Espanol is and. So if I want to say it's 1:05 or 5 minutes past 1, es la 1:05. You add on the minutos with this letter E and then whatever number you need for that amount of minutes. If I wanted to say it's 12 minutes past 3 or 3:12, son las 3:12. Entonces, ahora otra vez vamos a practicar. It's 3 minutes past 1. ¿Cómo se dice Or digitally, it would be 1:03. ¿Cómo se dice? It's 3 minutes past 1. Muy bien, fantástico. Es la 1:03. It's still how you would say 1 o'clock. And again, that one was tricky because remember, 1 is a singular number, so it is not son las una. It is es la 1:03 to add on those minutos. What about it's 8 past 5? Or it's 5:08? Muy bien, son las 5:08. What about it's 11 minutes past 7 or 7:11? ¿Cómo se dice en español? Muy bien, son las 7:11. And now we have the same thing, but now you're seeing it digitally. ¿Cómo se dice? 12:17 or it's 17 minutes past 12. Muy bien, son las 12:17. What about 6:23 or 23 minutes past 6? Muy bien, son las 6:23. Now, you might remember from our canción, there are also different words that do not have to do with the actual número, the actual number on the clock, to talk about when it's half past the hour or a quarter past the hour. So you can use words like media, which is half, and cuarto, which is quarter. Por ejemplo, es la 1:30. That would be like it's 1:30 or 1:30. Son las 2:15. It's a quarter past 2 or 2:15. And again, I mentioned in my previous lesson, I recorded on lunes with my reloj amarillo, with my yellow clock. Most Spanish-speaking people do not say es la 1:30. They really don't. They use these words media, half past, and cuarto instead of the number on the clock. ¿Cómo se dice it's 3:30? Muy bien, son las 3:30. How about 6:30 or it's 6:30? ¿Cómo se dice en español? Muy bien, son las 6:30. How would you say it's 1:30? Un poquito más difícil. Muy bien, es la 1:30. It's 9:15. Muy bien, son las 9:15. It's 12:15. Muy bien, son las 12:15. Now, the part that is a little more difficult en español is when you go past half the hour or media, you really do go to the next hour and subtract however many minutes are left using this word menos, which means until. Por ejemplo, son las 3:12 would be it's 12 minutes till 3 o'clock. Entonces vamos a practicar. It's 8 minutes until 5. ¿Cómo se dice? Muy bien. Son las 5:08. It's 10 minutes till 3. ¿Cómo se dice en español? Muy bien, son las 3:10. And if you were to see this on a digital clock, it would be a little bit harder because it would say 2:50, right? That's what I mean about you'd have to go to the next hour. You wouldn't say son las 2:10 because that would be a different time. You would need to go to the next hour, which is tres. Son las 3:10. It's 5 minutes till 9. ¿Cómo se dice en español? Or again, if you saw it digitally, it would be 8:55. But you need to use this hora. Muy bien. Son las 9:05. It's 11 minutes until 1. Cuidado, careful. ¿Cómo se dice en español? Muy bien, es la 1:11. It's a quarter until 3 o'clock. ¿Cómo se dice en español? Muy bien, son las 3:45. So you can still use that phrase cuarto for quarter, but instead of being a quarter into the hour or 3:15, we're saying it's a quarter until 3 or 2:45 or 15 minutes until 3. So instead of saying y, you would use that word menos. Son las 3:45. It's a quarter until 6. ¿Cómo se dice en español? Muy bien, fantástico. Son las 6:15. It's a quarter until 8. Muy bien, son las 8:15. And then this is something extra that is just good to know in Espanol when you're thinking about telling time or being able to tell time. And also, this is where you could add in our present tense verbs that we learned with our previous song about pronombres personales, our previous unit, where you learned verbs like comer, to eat, and beber, to drink, and many other AR, ER, and IR ending verbs. To differentiate between AM and PM, use the expressions de la mañana, de la tarde, and de la noche. Por ejemplo, to say it's 2 in the afternoon, son las 2 de la tarde. Son las 2 de la mañana would be like really early morning, AM, and son las 10 de la noche would be it's 10 in the evening. Entonces, por ejemplo, son las 3 de la tarde would be 3 in the afternoon. It's 2 in the afternoon. Son las 2 de la tarde. It's 10 in the evening. Son las 10 de la noche. It's 4 in the morning. Son las 4 de la mañana. Y es todo. Vamos a practicar un poquito to show you what I mean about adding in our previous unit. Vamos a verlo aquí. So with de la mañana o de la tarde o de la noche, like in the morning, in the afternoon, and at night, you can use your verbs you've learned, like cantar, which we know means to sing. In our canción from the previous unit, you learned beber, which means to drink. You learned abrir, which means to open. You can use these phrases de la mañana, de la tarde, and de la noche to talk about when you do something. So if you want to say what time you do that activity in the morning or in the afternoon or at night, you would change your way to tell time normally, like son las It's whatever time, or es la with 1 o'clock, with a la or a las. These both mean at whatever time. So, por ejemplo, you could say a las 8 de la mañana yo canto. At 8 in the morning, I sing. So you can add some more práctica, un poquito más difícil. If you're looking for a little more difficult of a practice or a way to combine our previous unit with our new unit and last unit of telling time, this is something you could give a try. Or if we want to say a las 2 de la tarde, yo abro mi libro. At 2 in the afternoon, I open my book. So it can help you remember our yo form of each present tense verb at the very least, although you could practice with all kinds of forms. If you want to say, a las 8 de la noche, nosotros bebemos leche. You can practice and see if you remember the other present tense forms. Like, a las 8 de la noche, at 8 at night, we drink milk. Nosotros bebemos leche. So creating with the language your own sentences with vocabulario and our gramática, our grammar, that's something that I'm sure in 5th grade you're going to be doing and doing quite often. So there's another actividad you could give a try that's un poquito más difícil, a little bit harder to get towards your goal of 60 minutes a week of Español Práctica. I will include this PowerPoint for your reference if you want more práctica under the download section of my portal page for 4th grade. I also want to show you muy rápido before I go some worksheets I'm also going to post for Más Práctica in that same section under the download section on my portal page. This one is probably the easiest. It's simply labeling a clock in Spanish. ¿Qué hora es? What time is it? So you're looking at la hora and writing las 12, por ejemplo. It also has some extra things in here, vocabulario extra, those being the hands on an analog clock. So they have la manecilla de la hora, the hour hand, which, por supuesto, of course, is the shorter hand. So that is where you would label la manecilla de la hora. They also have your word for the minute hand, which is right here, el minutero. And then they also have, some analog clocks have even a really thin, usually red in color, hand that shows the seconds, and that would be el segundero. Everything else you would label would simply be los números. To make it un poquito más difícil, you might read through these, pronounce them out loud, and then cover up the banco de palabras, this word bank, and see if you can label everything without that reference. Or if you need that reference, that is fine as well. Another worksheet for Más Práctica here, you're labeling the clocks. They also provide you with a banco de palabras or a word bank. And they also have some extra vocabulario for you here, like la medianoche would be midnight. El mediodía would be noon. So those are phrases you could say instead of saying it's 12 o'clock. If it was noon, you could say es el mediodía. Or if it was midnight, you could say es la medianoche. So those are tricky and added, something that is not in our song and I do not typically teach because these two would also use es instead of son. Es la medianoche, even though you are talking about a plural number. and it would be es el mediodía. So that's a little bit tricky to have. Then under here, español, ¿qué hora es? What time is it? Son las, es la una, it's 1 o'clock, which again has una estrella because you have to remember that it is es la and not son las una because one is singular or singular number. La medianoche, midnight, and el mediodía, noon. So you would label those clocks. Then you could also use this as an extra reference or start with this before you do the worksheets. This is just a review that normally if we were in class, we would do with a compañero, compañera, with a partner. And it just goes through the building blocks of telling time in español. How would you say it's 8 o'clock? Son las 8. On half the hour, the concept of adding y media, the concept of on the quarter or y cuarto, and then what happens when you go past half an hour. So when you see them digitally, por ejemplo, it is a little more difficult because you do have to go to the next hour in your mind and subtract however many minutes are left. So it would be son las 9 menos, remembering that word menos, which means until, 20. You would go to the next hour like it's 9 o'clock minus 20 minutes instead of saying son las 8:40. You could say that, but again, most Spanish-speaking people do not. They tell time this way, going to the next hora, the next hour, and subtracting however many minutes are there. And then the very last worksheet, so there are 4 in total. You have some digital clocks at the top, and there are some phrases in the middle. Match the clocks on the left and right to the Spanish time in the middle. Son las 9 menos cuarto. ¿Dónde está el reloj? Son las 9 menos cuarto. Muy bien. It would be 8:45. Like it's 9 o'clock minus a quarter, or it is a quarter until 9 o'clock. It would be this one right here. So you're simply matching them. They do have some phrases in here like en punto that was in our canción from Rocalingua, like es la una en punto. That just means there's no minutes involved, that it's that hour on the dot. So por ejemplo, son las 8 en punto would match here with this digital clock. And then a little bit harder for practice because now you are drawing the hands, both the hora, manecilla de la hora, and your minutero and your minute hand. You are drawing it based on what they tell you. So son las 2 menos cuarto would be what? Muy bien, it would be it is a quarter until 2 o'clock or 1:45. So you would draw your shorter minute hand almost to las 2, and you would draw your longer minute hand to that quarter until. This also practices with el mediodía, noon, and la medianoche, which from the previous worksheet we now know means midnight. Entonces es todo. Espero que todos estén bien y hasta luego.